Welcome to America's podcast. Today we have on.
Dominique Frost.
How's it going, Dominique?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, you are the first political person I've ever had on, and I'm very interested to learn some stuff about politics and especially local stuff. Being as in, I've only been here for about a year, so it's going to be really interesting just to get your take on, how your run went and how running for a political office is, even in the city of Memphis or even in being who you are, just how you grew up and all that kind of stuff. So let's get into it, and I guess just
Well,
tell
I'm
everybody
ready.
about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm born and raised. I was born and raised in Memphis. I'm a true blue Memphian. I went to school in North Memphis, born and raised in North Memphis, and that's just if folks don't know, Memphis has different areas, and North Memphis is a high poverty area here locally. I then went to Tennessee State University and received my bachelor's degree in marketing and business. And I came back home after graduating from TSU and, started my professional career and, worked at different organizations and became very interested in philanthropy. So I started a nonprofit called D Up Unlimited Incorporated, and I got involved in different organizations here locally in Memphis, and became interested in politics here locally, knowing that the only way to kind of create change is through civic engagement. And so I would do different community events, raise money for back to school bashes, that sort of thing. And that gained a lot of attention to different organizations, and people began to know me as Dominique, the community organizer, or Dominique, the girl that does back to school bashes with NBA and NBA athletes. And so I've kind of created a brand for myself over the years here. So when you talk about politics and my recent run for office, and for those who don't know, I just ran in the state primary here in Tennessee for State House Representative District 86. And that election day was August 6th. And we're here maybe 3 weeks later from the post-election having an interview. And I appreciate you having me on. So I can just say that Dominique Frost is a woman that cares about her community, and she wants to see change in Memphis, and not only in Memphis, but across the country. The Democratic Party is working hard to create change, and, it's a lot of influence on both sides. And with the election coming up, we all want people to get registered to vote. And whether you're going to vote one way or the other, I just really am for people getting registered to vote and exercising their right to vote. Of course, I don't want you to vote in a different way, other than Democratic. But of course, we can all agree to disagree. That's the power of voting. You get to choose. And so I really would like people to just get more civically engaged, and that has always been my mission.
So people who probably know me, I have zero political bias. I'm very unbiased when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'm the type of person, I just vote for whoever I like. And
Okay.
I was just telling Dominique, one person I've never voted, didn't have him get registered to vote. Yes, your jaws are dropped. But Rick Santorum was one guy I really wanted to vote for. A lot of people probably don't even know who he is, but I just liked who he was.
Okay.
So what is something that you would, or that you have been, like you were telling me earlier, how a lot of people were like, well, I'm not voting. They probably have that grumpy sound to them.
Right.
What is something that you end up like telling those kind of people who were just against it?
Well, I think those kind of folks are people who have lost hope. They lost hope in politics. They lost hope in voting, and they don't see why they need to vote. or they're uneducated about it, and or they listen to the different theories and they don't educate themselves on the power of voting. And I can make an example, most recently Kanye West, he's running for office and he's attempting to get on every single ballot across the country right now as an independent.
That's crazy.
And yeah, it is crazy. But at the end of the day, he's educated enough on civic engagement to know the power of a vote.
Yeah.
He's educated enough to know how to get on the ballot. And he has the right folks around him to try to get it done. And so my thing is, if he can educate himself enough to know the power of voting, then why can't other people?
Yeah.
And so so that's just an example there that I just wanted to throw out there. And so I think people, like I said, they've lost hope. And so if we could all come together and people say, oh, well, and even the last presidential election, people didn't vote for Hillary. And the reason they didn't vote for Hillary was, oh, well, it was either one of the two, and I didn't vote for either one, Or, I've heard all kind of things, or I didn't go vote because I didn't like either of the candidates. And so as constituents and as citizens here, we have to come together. And you have to exercise your right to vote. And if you have to, my thing is, it's not enough people voting. So
I think I saw on your post, like you said something about 30,000 people in the area, and then only 5,000 were registered or something like that.
Right. Well, 30,000 people were registered in my district.
Oh, registered. Okay.
Were registered to vote. Means that they were able and eligible to go vote, and they did not exercise their right. Only 5,000 people out of that 30,000 actually exercised their right to vote in my election. And for me to look at that and look at those numbers, that's ridiculous. That's very low. And it says that they don't care. And for me, I worked very hard on the election. I worked very hard.
I'm sure you do.
I worked very hard in this primary. And a part of my messaging and a part of, the reason I said that I wanted to run is because I care. And for them not to care, it was so discouraging, and but I had to keep my head high. I had to remember that it's going to take time, and I have to be the influencer. I have to be the one to say, look, this is not just for your next door neighbor. This is for generations of your children. The decisions made today are going to affect your children and your great grandchildren. And so even when you talk about Social Security, in 2037, we won't have Social Security. By the time you and I get 50 and 60, we won't even be able to draw that.
Yeah.
And so those are the type of things that people need to know, that this is very serious. COVID is just, when COVID hit, this is just an eye-opener that you don't have control of anything. And that the government does have the power to assist. So if you don't exercise your right to vote, then you won't be able to put the right leaders in charge that's going to be able to help our constituents that are in need.
Yeah. So already I've kind of grasped a different mindset on voting. Like when you were just talking about how, it doesn't matter who you really vote for, just go out and do it. I'm already thinking about how the change you also brought about, things are always going to be the same. Like, if you go to your favorite restaurant is, I don't know, like Texas Roadhouse, and if they have something terrible on the menu, but nobody says anything, then they're going to keep serving it because, or, some people keep serving it, and even though they're not really making money off of it, but if you don't speak up, then nobody's going to really do anything about it.
Right. You have to exercise your voice.
Yeah.
And your voice is will not be heard if you don't know what civic engagement is.
Yeah.
For instance, I'll give you a prime example. And this is just for folks our age or people that have homeowners, okay? You care in neighborhood associations and those sort of things. And, if you have a pothole in your street on your way home and you hit this pothole every single day and every day you're going home from work and you're on the phone with your girlfriend and you say, damn, babe, I hit this pothole. I'm sick of this pothole every single day. And you don't know the protocol and how to get that fixed, but you don't exercise your right to vote. If you don't know who your leader is, then it's your fault. You pay your taxes. You need to know what civic engagement is. What you would need to do as a homeowner and living in that neighborhood, you would need to call your local leader, whether it's a commissioner or city councilman, hold them accountable. And, when I'm elected, because I will run for this seat again, I want my constituents to hold me accountable. If you don't write me, how will I know?
That's very true.
If you don't call my office and tell me, hey, Dominique Frost, I got this problem. Grass needs to be cut. Code enforcement needs to be called. Those kind of things. You need to know that that signing petitions and or community organizing is important. And, that's how you get things done. And nothing against the protesters, nothing against folks that are protesting. But it was a lot of folks that went protesting here in Memphis. Black Lives Matter. And it's a great chapter here. But I guarantee you, all of those folks down there protesting did not go vote.
It's probably.
And so if you're going to spend your energy complaining about and saying, oh, this needs to happen and huffing and puffing and doing all this and organizing, then people need to step up, get registered to vote, use your civic. The best thing I can say is work smart, not hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go and exercise and stop complaining and, get civically engaged.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that I've always thought about is like that scenario you were talking about is, just getting the people that we vote in to make sure that they're working for us. I mean, we're paying the taxes, and I would guarantee you the majority of people don't know that protocol. Like they're probably still hitting that pothole and not saying anything.
Right.
So
you have to do the work for your leader to do the work.
Yeah.
And so like for me, I vote all the time. It's people who don't vote, they don't get letters in the mail. They don't get notifications. They don't know what's going on. Like since I vote all the time, I always get things in the mail, updates on what's, town hall meetings. I get things in the mail that someone who doesn't vote wouldn't get.
Yeah.
And so because their target is target marketing. And so you wouldn't know early voting was going on if you hadn't voted in the last 2 voting cycles. And FYI, voting suppression is going on in Tennessee because they are purging people who haven't voted after 2 voting cycles, presidential voting cycles. Wow. If you haven't voted, I believe it's 2 or 3, but they are purging people. This is new. Okay. Before if you registered to vote when you were 18, you're going to be registered to vote for the rest of your life.
Wow.
Now the law has changed, and that's what we call voter suppression. If you have not voted in the last couple of presidential voting cycles, you have to re-register, and you have to vote. They purge you. You can go vote, and they'll say, "Hey, you're not registered to vote." You wouldn't even know because you've been purged.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, is that something that you feel like a lot of people are going through, or is it more like a smaller percentage?
Well, I don't even think a lot of people are aware. It's been articles. It's been a lot of things, it's been articles written, it's been publicized, but if you, like I said, if you don't have that type of engagement, you wouldn't know if you're not engaged in what's going on politically.
Yeah. So what were some things? That's what that was. My last podcast, I had a beep go off, and it was that. And we
Okay.
had no idea what that beep was. But anyways, all right, sorry. But yeah. So what are some things that you were broadcasting out to people? Some changes that you were trying to make within the area?
Well, on a state level, I would have influence on creating law and, you know, not only creating law, but changing different laws in legislation. And so one of the things that I wanted to focus on was minimum wage in the state of Tennessee, which is too low. It's the same as federal minimum wage, and that's $7.25. And in comparison to our surrounding states, Mississippi is at about $9.
Wow.
Yes, and Arkansas is there too, if not more. And so Tennessee is behind the minimum wage, and the minimum wage in Tennessee has been the same since maybe 2007.
Has it always been like the federal minimum wage?
Well, yes, and it has, and my thing is, but the cost of living keeps going up, and for years, leaders have been trying to get minimum wage increased in the state of Tennessee and have not been able to get it done. And so that's something that I promised my constituents is that when I get elected, I'm going to focus on minimum wage in the state of Tennessee, because if literally, if you cannot provide for your family, if you cannot afford living and be able to come home with at least $800 a week, you're not going to be able to survive.
Yeah.
And so I would propose that state of Tennessee consider at least $15 an hour. Some people say 20, but when you talk about what's possible and being able to actually get done, because if it hadn't been able to get done in the last 15 years, then you have to be able to, propose a rate that'll be fair, something that you can possibly get done. I think $15 was something that can possibly get done in Tennessee, but it's not only gonna need leaders fighting for it, it's gonna need constituents fighting for it, and people are gonna have to organize for it and be able to know how to write to governor, know how to demand things from the governor. How many people even know who Tennessee governor is? Who our Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
And so it's it's just crazy. And Governor Bill Lee, he is a Republican. But it's been a lot of things during COVID that has really shown his true colors. Some of the decisions that he's made as a leader through COVID that I've noticed has not necessarily been always for the best interests of my constituents. I wouldn't say for the state of Tennessee, because, but for the constituents that I represent or that I would represent, he has not made some of the best decisions. And so, or it took him a while to get there.
Yeah. So
it took him a while to get there but at the end of the day, know how to write your governor. Know how to say, look, we're going to go start a petition and we're going to go to Nashville and organize a bus trip up to Nashville to meet with these folks.
So when you come up with that $15 an hour, like what do you think is, I guess, how do you get to that possible number? Like, what are some things that probably, is there something that we need to cut back on? Is there something we need to add on to get to this $15 an hour?
Well, the budgeting is done every year on the state level. They can easily put that into can easily create change, because it would just be laws that would be created to where everyone in the private sector of business would have to have minimum wage at $15 an hour. So it is nothing that we would necessarily change, when it comes to budgeting. But there would be, lawmakers would need to come together and vote on it. The bill would need to be written, and the entire House would have to have majority vote. And so, and there have been bills written, and like I said, they have not come to a majority vote on the issue.
Yeah.
And one thing that I can say is that I was running against an incumbent that's been in this seat for over 28 years.
That's a long time.
That's a long time.
That's how old I am.
Well, honey, I can tell you. Well, she is live and still has her sound mind. But one of the things that I found challenging about her, some of her responses to not being able to create change in that area was she would say, well, the majority's Republican and the Democrats are outweighed by Republicans. And that's one of the reasons why we're not able to get that done. And so for me as a constituent, this is not Dominique, the candidate. For me as a constituent, I'm like, come on. What are you saying? You can't get it done. I'm like, so
start using logic.
Come on, I'm feeling like, I say one thing about me, I'm a businesswoman, and I worked in sales for a long time. And if you have your own business, you're pretty much your own salesperson.
Yeah. So
as a representative of the state house, I'm representing you. So I'm selling the fact that this needs to be done.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, my thing is, let's not say, it can't be done because we're outnumbered. Let's just say your influence is not all the way where it needs to be to get it done.
Yeah. Or
or you don't have the relationships that you need to have in the state house after 28 years to get it done.
Yeah.
And so that's my outlook on it. And that was my promise to my constituents upon being elected. That was one of my promises, to focus on minimum wage.
Do you think there's a hard separation sometimes between, like, as you were saying, like, not me as the candidate, me as the constituent? Like, do you think it's sometimes people have a hard time separating, like, being in that political, like, blinders and just being a person, just like understanding what people need?
Well, I think that sometimes people can be out of touch, and I'm not saying that I know everything, because I don't. And I'm not saying I know what it's like to be an elected official, because I haven't been one yet. But I can say that when you're away from the community and you're not in the community, it's hard for you to know. It's if you, because for me, I have family that still live in poverty. I have family that's still on government assistance. So for me, I can never forget. I'll never forget. And the moment that I think I'm gonna forget, my mama reminds me real quick.
Yeah.
And so I think that sometimes we can be out of touch. And for my Republican friends and for my friends that are, which quote unquote bougie, sometimes I have to sit down with them and say, well, help me to understand.
Yeah.
Sometimes as people, we need to sit down and say, instead of getting angry with the other person's opinions, say, help me to understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't know. So I got to have those kind of conversations with people on the campaign trail, and I really enjoyed it. I really did. Because there's some of those conversations were enlightening, and some of them were okay, we're not getting anywhere.
I'm sure you have a lot of those.
Let's just agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But there may be room to influence.
Yeah.
You know, you never want to leave anything on the table where you can't influence someone.
Yeah.
Or help them to understand your perspective.
Yeah. I mean, that's really a lot of what's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement. And a lot of people are saying, well, people don't understand this and people don't understand that. And people just get angry. They get really emotional, and then people don't listen when they get emotional. Like if you've ever been in a fight with your spouse,
Right.
you just get emotional. You don't listen to them.
Right.
Like I want me to be heard. I don't care what you have to say. So I mean, I think that's what happens with, just regular day individuals. Like we end up, people get emotional and they don't really care what the other party has to say. And unfortunately, if a politician does that, then it doesn't just affect them. It affects all the people that they're making decisions for.
That's true.
Yeah. And one thing I would love to get from just learning from you, like I feel like I've already learned a lot from you as far as politics go, but I just really think that people being able to grasp that concept of, my vote can make some sort of change as far as, like I was saying with the Texas Roadhouse thing, like just throwing something else out there, it's like you're giving yourself another option. You're giving yourself another opportunity to get something else out of it. And that's something that I hope people, I guess, eventually understand is there, as you were talking about earlier, the power of a vote.
Correct.
And that's something I've never really thought about, honestly, till now. But that's something that I feel like if people can understand what they could do, then that will change what the people that they're actually voting for can do, because then that changes your whole scenario. That changes, your lifestyle. As you were saying, trying to get that $15 an hour, that can change that.
Right.
And, whatever, your living status. So that's. And
mentally, because, it causes depression is not just, some people are living in depressed states.
Yeah.
And the reason they're depressed is because they're living in poverty. And so it would help with a lot of that. It would help with people being a little bit more encouraged. If you have money in your pocket, you're going to have a little bit more confidence, and you're going to think a little bit more straight.
Yeah.
And, it will reduce crime. I think if more people, not only if we created jobs, but if more people had fair wages and living wages, fair living wages. And so you can't, the scripture even says a man that doesn't work doesn't eat. And so if he can't provide for his family, he's gonna, if you're already in a depressed state, you don't know, what can I do to make money? Am I going to rob? Am I going to kill? Am I going to steal? And when that happens, that's when leaders have to think about making decisions. That's when you have to think about, okay, we need to bring more jobs. We need these kind of jobs. We need jobs to where it's worth $15 an hour. So we need to increase wages, So these are things. And so you have to have someone that represents you that's going to go up there to the state capitol and say, my people need this.
Yeah. And
make them understand why they need this, whether it's in education, whether it's in economic development or health, because healthcare in Tennessee, I think that Medicaid expansion is very important. That the program itself, I feel as if everyone should have healthcare. Everyone, if you're not able to pay for healthcare on your own, we should provide healthcare. And so, people have accrued so much debt and doctor's bills and medical bills because they don't have health care.
Yeah.
And, other countries provide health care for their constituents and citizens. So, and even education. Other countries have free education. We don't. So let's get down to the nitty gritty here, and these are things that people and the Democratic Party are fighting for.
Yeah.
You know, these are things that we are fighting for in the Democratic Party. And so I just want people to know that the two parties don't argue because they don't like each other. They argue because they're fighting for different issues. And so, you know, one wants to increase taxes, one doesn't. One wants Medicaid expansion, one's like, hey, I work hard and they need to work hard too. We're in America. You know, one's like, hey, well, you know, I want to, when it comes to education, I want charter schools, and one wants to put funding into more charter schools, and one says, hey, I don't want more charter schools. I want more money into public education.
Yeah.
You know, so these are issues that people need to know about.
Yeah.
And
sure.
be woke about.
Yeah.
And because you know, at the end of the day, you have privileged children and you have children who aren't privileged.
Yeah.
You have, and then most privileged children have the best education.
Yeah.
And so when you think about those underprivileged children who go to public school, can't get into a charter school, so you're still creating segregation in education when you do charter school versus public school.
Yeah.
And some public schools are charter, so it's like different levels to it.
Yeah. Like different tiers, yeah. For real.
Or different tiers of it, but people need to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And people need to know where their tax dollars are going.
That's one thing that education has been a huge thing for me, because even being out of school, I felt like I got a better grasp of what was going on in school. Like, you know, so I have a bachelor's degree in business management.
Okay.
And I graduated, when I graduated college, I think I was 21. Well, just looking back at like how high school is set up, and then, you know, how people go to college, and then like seeing all my friends and what they got degrees in and what they're doing now, it's, I guess, terrifying to know that how our system is currently set up, and I don't really see anything changing. Like, COVID has made things change a lot. Like, people are doing a lot more online stuff and stuff like that, but as far as like a real systematic change, I don't really see one going on. So how I got my current job, I make a good wage, and it's I think something that more companies should do is, so I actually went to a program, and it was only 12 weeks, and I learned an entire career field in 12 weeks.
Okay.
Zero college education for my job. And some people, I mean, they either went to some technical school or they have a degree in what I do. But I just went for 12 weeks to learn something, and then now, you know, I've got this job. And I think more specialized training should be geared toward that. I know that we aren't doing enough like skilled trades people. I know that's a high demand. I'm from Alabama, but that's a high demand back in Alabama. They're actually starting a system to where I think you get paid. I'm not sure, but you go to like a training for a certain amount of months, and companies basically get like first dibs on you. Like they see you work, and they get to find out how well you're doing, and then they can hire you from this program.
Right.
And Alabama pays for 100% of it. Like,
Okay.
you might get paid from it. I can't remember, but I know they're paying for it because they realize there's a shortage of skilled people. Like, people are going to college and getting, you know, bachelor's degrees or art degrees or, you know, just random things. But, you know, we need more plumbers. We need more electricians. We need more construction workers, stuff like that. So that's something that I don't think gets reiterated enough in schools. I think.
Well, I can tell you that local schools here took out vocational education. And we took that out of the school system. And when the merge happened in 2013, because we at one point in time we had Memphis City schools, and then the merge happened in 2013, and then it became Shelby County schools, where Shelby County acquired Memphis City schools. And when that happened, a lot of changes happened in our high schools, to where that transitional educational piece for like vocational education, where you had auto mechanics, cosmetology, all of those type of skill sets and trainings were removed from
Wow.
from public education.
Yeah.
And so, I do agree that there should be more trade programs, and that that's awesome that Alabama is putting that. Is that a state level program? Okay, so and so I think Tennessee vocational, our Tennessee, I think it's vocational department of vocational jobs, where people get jobs, because it's I think they do have programs for people, and they do pay for education. And then the state of Tennessee also has a program to where you can go to school and get your your associate's degree.
Oh, okay.
And for free, you can start school maybe at a 2 years college or a JUCO school, and that was not available when I was in high school, where you can go to school for free for 2 years and obtain your associate's degree, and the state pays for that.
That's great. Like, some people really just, they grew up in poverty, and they're just like, I have no shot of getting any kind of
So there are programs.
education.
There are programs in Tennessee. So let's not, we do have programs here, but people, like I said, they have to be educated on it, and they have to know it's available. And I do commend you for, being able to, acquire a skill set, and that's something that you can publicly talk about and tell folks that you do have hope. Like, you don't have to go to college, to make a great living wage.
Yeah.
So those are, I'm glad we're talking. If you could, you can share that link with me, or share the opportunity with me, and I don't mind sharing it with my audience, or, letting people know about it. But, because some people may want to relocate to Alabama for opportunities, or, maybe we could do a pilot program here in Tennessee that's similar to the one in Alabama. Those are the type of things. That's why we have to have these type of discussions.
Yeah.
So that we can create change in our communities.
Yeah.
There's
just a numerous amount of things that I don't think enough conversations come up. I think, as we were talking about the Democratic and Republican type bickering that might go back and forth of who's right, who's wrong. But at the end of the day, like, as long as we're making progress, making strides forward, that's when we can get more actual progress, is when we're actually, having those kind of discussions on what should be done.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe.
Well, sometimes, people just have to be open, like I said, to say, help me understand.
Yeah.
Instead of just walking off like,
Yeah.
So it's sometimes you just have to be open. You have to have an open mindset and willing to have the conversations. And just like with anything, if you're not open, if you're not focused on it, or if you don't care about it, you have to have a care, about civic engagement. You have to care about it. And that's what I'm trying to influence people to care about it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you care about Instagram, you care about, what's the next album that just came out on Tidal or iTunes.
Yeah.
So care about subscribing to political news update, or start as small as getting registered to vote, or just getting different updates on your phone that you wouldn't necessarily get. Start listening to a podcast.
Very true.
So, take the time to get educated and before you say, hey, I don't even care. So that's my whole deal in it. People have to want to know. And when you start paying bills and when you start paying your taxes and Uncle Sam, then you care.
Yeah.
When it hits your pockets, you care.
Yeah.
And that's why I would say a lot of people who are a different class or different middle class and high class folks, they are a little bit more educated on civic engagement because they have those assets and they have debt acquired and they have to know where their money is going. And so they care. And some people don't necessarily care because they're over it. They've been in the struggle so long that they, living in poverty so long that they're like, my mama lived in poverty. My grandma lived in poverty. What's going to change?
Yeah.
You tell me.
Yeah.
And so
that is a little weird because you would think the people who are in the worst situation would be more involved,
you
right?
would think so.
Because they need more change. Like if you're doing well, you don't need as much change.
But that's kind of what I was talking about with the depressed state. When you're living in depression and you're in a depressed state, it's hard for you to care.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about living. You and I say, I'm living. But they're thinking about surviving.
Yeah, those are two different things.
And they're thinking about how I'm going to make ends meet. I don't have time to go vote because I got to think about how I'm going to get my lights paid or keep my lights on. Or, my boyfriend just got shot. Who cares? I don't have the money to. So when you talk about, you also have to talk about economic development and socioeconomic development. And you have to talk about, educating people on how to create wealth in their families and Black power and that sort of thing. So that was another thing that that was a part of my movement and mission, is to change the minds of people that live in my district. Because my district was South Memphis, North Memphis, Westwood, and Fraser.
Okay.
Not only that, but downtown and was downtown in Whitehaven. And majority of those areas are high poverty areas. The only area in my district that's not high poverty would be downtown. Okay. So with that being said, my focus as a leader was to and is to change the minds of my constituents and for them to care about finance, for them to care about black power and economic development and giving back and putting money and business back into the community. And knowing the power of a dollar, ensuring that, and people don't know this, but the entire time that I was running for office, I was studying and preparing to become a life and health insurance agent. And so now I'm a health and life insurance producer as of last week. And, I was studying, taking tests and preparing for that. And if more people knew the power of finance and people knew how to make their money work for them in our communities, then we wouldn't necessarily have a lot of people in some of the situations because they're not educated on, okay, if Jimmy kills Jimmy, if Jimmy kills Joe on the block and we have life insurance, then we wouldn't be so upset, or some of that anger wouldn't be there. Some of that depression wouldn't be there because it's just educating our communities and educating them on how to come out of poverty. And so they have to be willing to learn and to get educated. So and Memphis is a high poverty city. Not only that, but it's a highly populated African American city. And so we have a lot of people living in poverty that are African Americans. And with that being said, they're the ones who need to be the most civically engaged. But they're not because they've lost hope.
Yeah. So how did you get the district? Is that your choice?
Well, districts are pretty much, I have to run for a district that I live in.
Oh, okay.
And so I live in District 86.
Okay.
And so I ran for District 86 because I live in District 86. And I was not gonna move. I grew
just to get a different
district. And not only that, but I like District 86. I've been downtown as a downtown resident now for almost 7 years. And I grew up in North Memphis. So the district was perfect for me because I knew it's my stomping ground.
Yeah, the people know you.
The people know me, yeah. So I just, District 86, man, I canvassed, man. It was, I didn't even know the district was that large. And I didn't know it was, even Millington. Oh my God, how can I forget about Millington? But yeah, hey, folks over in Millington. But Millington is a high Republican area.
Oh, okay.
And majority of that district are, consist of Republicans. But that municipality of folks are good folks. But, that's probably why I didn't mention them, because it's not one of the highest poverty areas in my district. So yeah, it's a huge district, and I walked and canvassed and put up signs all throughout those areas. And I met a lot of people on the campaign trail. And if anybody familiar with those areas like Westwood, South Memphis, off of South Parkway, you've got Riverside Drive all the way out to South Memphis. Then you've got Danny Thomas that runs all the way out to Thomas into Millington. And then the North Haven, Fraser area. So I'm super excited to see new development in those areas. That was something that was a part of my platform as well, is small business expansion and new development, because I'm really big on developing the city. And the city of Memphis does have a 3.0 development plan that they're working on and rolling out. And I was just happy to see that the city had a plan. You know what I mean? That plan looks like it's a good plan, but there's going to be a lot of gentrification in different areas.
Yeah.
And
that's something I thought was going to happen huge in Memphis.
Right.
Because I feel like the city is growing exponentially. And I was like, these high poverty areas are probably going to get turned over pretty quickly.
Right.
And unless somebody does something about it, I don't think anything's going to stop it.
Well, gentrification is something that is inevitable.
Yes.
That's the word.
Yes.
It's inevitable, okay? It's going to happen. We just have to, and there are going to be casualties. But if we can save the ones that we can save and ensure, like I said, people are educated on finance, and that Auntie Lily and Grandma Teresa don't lose their homes that they've been at for the last 40, 50 years, then and educate them on how to keep their homes and keep up with the Joneses, you know, then I think we'll be okay. Yeah. But if we don't, like I say, if we don't educate our folks on what's coming, you have to prepare for it, because it's coming. And it's not like they don't tell you we have these kind of things going on, you know, and people want to see change. Like, so if you create change, there are going to be some people that are upset about it. And there's going to be some people who who want it to happen. But we definitely don't want our city to go in a deficit to where these small businesses are or people are kicked out of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
As while it's happening.
Yeah.
And so that's my only thing. I would like for people to know if it's coming, them to be prepared for it, and how to maneuver it and what to do.
So how do you think is the biggest way that you can educate people more on either, very specific issues or just the broad spectrum of politics and just their rights within a city and how they can get things done?
I think that how we educate people, we have to get influencers involved. Period. We have to get people involved to influence people.
Do we have like meetings?
We do have town hall meetings. We
yeah.
have town hall meetings. People, you can go to city hall meetings and county commission meetings for free. They're public. They're on the website. The entire agenda about where your money is being spent is on the website. The same thing on the state level. You can see where the money is being spent. So, like I said, people have to care.
Yeah.
You have to care. And so now there are a lot of new leaders that are on social media more. And there's a lot more engagement from younger leaders that are putting the word out about things, which I very much so commend them. You have the Michael and Esther Thomas or J.B. Smiley. Those are new city councilwomen and city councilmen here locally that actually, use social media as a tool and ensure that people in their network and people in their base know what's going on. So people have to know. They have to want to get engaged. They have to say, "Hey, let me follow this person on Instagram."
Yeah.
Hey, instead of let me go smoke hookah. People my age, and I'm 32 by the way. In my social group and age group of millennials, a lot of them are disconnected, and a lot of them have other things that they care about.
Yeah.
Or prioritize, I would say.
Yeah, that's a good word.
They prioritize things differently. And until something happens, and then they're like, okay, I need to care about this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like until I become a homeowner or a parent, and a parent that cares. Not just a parent. A parent that cares. That life-changing moment, like when you become a real tax-paying citizen, is when folks start to care.
Yeah.
And to me, that's too long.
Yeah. Their as you said, priorities, their mindset just completely changes.
Right.
So is there so you were talking about we have town meetings and stuff like that. Then you start mentioning influencers. So Instagram has their influencers, people who are, showing off their gear and everything they have from a certain company. Do you have anything like that you try to do with, I don't know, any kind of like popular people in the Memphis area where you as a candidate, now you don't have to be manipulating people by being like, oh, look at me, I'm friends with so-and-so. You should vote for me.
Right.
Like nothing like that. But building relationships with people and literally just trying to, as you said, like just trying to educate people, and you end up like speaking to these people and they're like, oh, I like her. Let me tell other people how I like her. And then now, boom, everybody, they've developed this. You developed a network just because you talked to one person, that person likes you, and now all these other people are going to be geared to look for you. So is that something that you've you looked into? Is that something that's kind of looked down upon? I don't know, but.
Well, I think that just like your parents telling you are who you hang around.
Yeah.
Or you are what you attract, or what, you are what you attract. And so, or something like that. I'm not sure if I said it the right way.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but yeah, so my thing is this: you have to, I think that, for me getting the word out, and for me, everybody knows Dominique Frost as the girl that's in politics, or the girl that's in the community. She does community work. And so I have people who want to connect with me because they want to be more civically engaged. They'll just DM me or ask me a random question or say, girl, let's do lunch, and I'm open and willing to meet with people and talk to them about and give them my thoughts on things. And I will even direct them because, my business is consulting.
Yeah.
So if they need help on business expansion, I know what part of Memphis that they need to, what department I need to refer them to.
Yeah.
If they need support in a different area, I know who. I'm kind of the go-to person.
Yeah.
And I enjoy being that person. I've helped a lot of my friends that are starting up new businesses and tell them, give them kind of direction on what to do. And I don't mind sharing that knowledge. And some people don't share information.
Yeah.
They want you to work hard for information. And I think that as leaders and people and civic advocates and people that work for the community, if this is your purpose, then you should want to put that information out there.
Yeah.
And you should want people to know about it. So for me, that's my mission for the next couple of years, is to stay visible, to stay connected, and to still continue doing my community work. Because if I stop and if I quit, then nothing will change.
Yeah.
And I know that this is my purpose, is to continue, whether I'm here locally or whether I'm away, I'm always talking about it. So people know that this is something that she cares about. So it's all in all, just to wrap up that question, I would say people have to care, and the people that we have elected have to ensure this information is put out there. And one thing that I want to one department that I would like to hold accountable would be our election commission and our state election commission, because for me, in my opinion, I feel as if they should be responsible for getting the word out about voting. They should be responsible for every citizen and every taxpaying citizen to receive something in their mailbox about where to go vote, about getting registered to vote if they haven't got registered to vote, and upcoming elections. So people can say, and it's a lot of people who say, oh, is voting going on right now? Why? Because they don't know it's going on.
Yeah.
And we haven't notified them. We haven't went to their doors. We haven't sent direct mail pieces. We have enough tax dollars to send out direct mail to every person that lives in Shelby County.
Yeah.
And we don't do that.
Yeah.
And that's not mandated by law to do. And so that's a part of voter suppression. If you ask me, is why our tax dollars ain't being spent. You send tax dollars out when you want tags. When it's time to renew tags for every person that has a vehicle registered, or we find a way to send out notifications for those kind of things. But we don't find money in the budget to send out notifications about getting registered to vote and when there's an election coming up. For me, I feel like something needs to be done about that.
Yeah.
And the election commission could do better.
What are your biggest points as far as things that hey, when Candace gets elected, these are the things I would like to change? I don't know if you got a top 3 or a top 1, whatever.
Well, like I said, the number one thing would be minimum wage. The second thing would be, I want to
Did I
increase.
just call you Candace?
Oh, you said Candace, but I was thinking you were talking like third person or something. I was like, okay, well, it's you, Candace. Okay.
I don't know where that came from.
Yeah. So when I get elected, or when I, these are the issues that I would like to focus on, would be Medicaid expansion, criminal justice reform. That's a huge one for me, because I do have people that are close to me that are incarcerated, and I really think that there needs to be some laws changed when it comes to incarceration for nonviolent crimes. And this country is built off the American dollar. And it's a huge percentage of African American men that are in jail, incarcerated right now, and for nonviolent crimes.
Yeah.
That and those particular laws have been changed over the years.
Yeah.
And they're still incarcerated for those things, and the laws have been changed. And so so when you talk about, and even the current laws when it comes to, I think that the sentencing, the time, the laws and the sentencing by law should be reduced. It's people who commit murders and kill people, they get sentences way less than men who are convicted drug dealers.
That's crazy.
And to me, that's absurd. And the only reason that the House or people have, changed some of the laws when it comes to nonviolent drug crimes is because the opioid epidemic is touching their folks. And I'm not saying just their folks, like Caucasians, but that's the reality of it. And so since their communities are being affected by it, then it's like, oh, it's time to change the law. But when our communities were being affected by it for years, and I'm not saying that selling drugs is a good thing, but what I'm saying is that let's be fair about this. Let's not make sentencing based off of money, because the truth of the matter fact is they're making too much money, so they need to be put away.
Justice is about fairness.
Justice is about fairness. And so, and a lot of these men were providers. They're providing. So you think about that, the income that's taken away from their families when they get locked up, that changes the entire family, the dynamics of the family and how it affects them. That's when the depression happens again. So I'm not saying that they're right, but what I'm saying, let's be fair about the lawmaking.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that blows my mind. I had on Adam McClellan, and I had to actually explain to him this story. Do you remember that cop that walked into that guy's apartment, and she said that she thought it was her apartment, and she shot him? That blew my mind that she didn't get life in prison for that, because that's murder. Last time I checked. Like, you can't just go into somebody's house and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that was my place," and then like murder them. That's that
loony.
Absolutely blows. Like, nothing a lawyer, attorney, or her would be able to say should be able to change her getting life in prison, because unless she was literally crazy, but she wasn't. She was a cop that just got off duty and was coming home and murdered this guy. So that right there blows my mind on how the justice system works.
Welcome to America. And when you have people, and then, that's all I can say is, America is built off of a lot of injustices, and it's built, it's not fair the way that our government has been built over the years, and you have a huge group of folks that are trying to create change so that we do have a voice, and so that these type of things are not happening, and that law is power. Believe it or not. If you're not educated on the law, that's your fault. And you don't have to be an attorney to be educated on the law. You can read the law. You can study the law. And that's the thing. As a state representative, I don't have to be an attorney to be your representative. I just need to be educated enough to know the law, know the law and know what parts of the law need to be changed to help my community.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and have you a team that's going to be ready to research and study and say, hey, how can we get this done? We need to write a bill for this, or we need to adjust this particular bill to make this happen.
Yeah.
And so, that's and somebody who cares enough to do that, to do the work to get that done. And so a lot of things, and that's why you have to vote, folks. You have to go vote, and you have to pick the right candidates that are willing to do that work. And so those are things, when you talk about criminal justice reform, you talk about healthcare expansion, you talk about minimum wage, and I also wanted to implement a program for business owners and small business expansion, and to where we can educate our business owners on how to create Black power in our communities. Not only, but all business owners, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because I feel as if we keep business in the communities, and I don't know if you know this, but Orange Mound was one of the top communities in Tennessee.
So somebody explained to me Orange Mound, but could you re-explain to me Orange Mound?
Well, it's one of the first African-American wealthy communities that was ever created in Memphis. And it was one of the first communities, it has a lot of history where predominant African-American folks lived in Orange Mound.
It's a certain location?
In Memphis. And now it's a high poverty area in Memphis, and it just says a lot about the history and how things have completely changed from years of our ancestors working hard to be independent and have their own properties and have their own businesses. It was a very predominant area.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of folks who support Orange Mound area and wants to see it back to its current, its previous state.
Yeah.
And I support, any kind of programs or projects that people implement in Orange Mound. And so, because that's pretty much it's the heart of the city. And it's near University of Memphis.
Okay.
And it's not too far from the Greyhound station.
Gotcha.
So it's and it's still highly populated African American area, but it's a high poverty area. And so and I don't know if people are familiar with Melrose High School, but Melrose High School sits in Orange Mound.
Okay. So how do you think that changes? Like, what are some steps?
Well, we have to start investing in our communities. And I know it's a lot of people in real estate and development that are putting money into Orange Mound. It needs grocery stores and census. We can start with the census. We can start with people taking their census every 10 years. And Tennessee has a very low census rate.
That's kind of weird. Like that's a weird thing to not.
Memphis has a very low participation rate for census, and we need a high participation rate in order for us to get state dollars and federal dollars to be put into our low poverty areas.
Oh, is it like higher population, more money?
Right. More population, more money.
That's crazy. And
so if everybody in Cordova does their census, if everybody in Arlington does their census, all federal dollars are not going to go to the areas that need it. It's going to go to the areas where people are doing their census. They can get a new school.
That's crazy.
They can get a new library. They can get a new community center, a new pool. Hey, whatever you need, because we know that the population size is growing in certain areas.
That's wild.
So people, like I said, that goes back to civic engagement.
Yeah.
And it goes back to knowing how to create change. And a 5-minute census survey could help your child get a better school. It could help your you have a better funded public library and better resources for the community.
Yeah.
And people don't know that or care to, and it only comes around every 10 years. It's not like it
Yeah.
it's not like it comes around every year, where, hey, I'll get it done. No, I'll be 40 by the time I get ready to do another census survey.
Yeah.
And so by that time, will I still be a Memphis constituent if things don't change here? You have to think about that.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of people who are my colleagues who have left Memphis, having great careers, and the reason that they left Memphis is because they feel like there's no opportunities and Memphis is not going to change.
Yeah.
And so my goal is to encourage them and try to influence them to stay. But if you get a better job away, and you create better experiences away, then you're not going to come back.
Yeah.
So that's just where it is. Memphis has, we have a lot of grit and grind. And everyone says that Memphis has a lot of potential, which we do. But it's going to take people to care.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is your next steps? Where are you going?
Well, Dominique Frost, like I said, I'm right now I'm a life and health insurance producer, and I have kind of pretty much put all of my business affairs, other business affairs, my political consulting, my business consulting, all of those skill sets and everything I've done in my previous business of defrosting company, I'm just putting it in a bag and saying, hey, let it go. COVID-19 has really opened my eyes as an entrepreneur and made me step into a new trade, and that's insurance.
Yeah.
And so I'm the Dominique Frost, the civic advocate and insurance agent. And so if you need health insurance, if you need life insurance, if you want to be, if you care about your health and your wealth, which those are things that you should care about, then you can definitely reach out to me. I would not have a problem with getting you insured and getting a policy drawn up for you that's going to help change your life. So that's what's next for me.
Okay.
I'm starting a new business and stepping into a new trade, and I am ready for new beginnings, and I can't wait for what God has in store for me. So that's what I plan on doing. I do that every day. I go into the office, I work hard, and I'm just really thankful for the people that God has put around me, because I prayed for new people and for people that could actually assist me with my growth.
Yeah.
And these group of folks are very professional, and they want to see me win.
Was this your Team D Frost I saw?
Yes. Yeah. They want to see me win. And so I appreciate everyone that has helped me along the way, because now for so long I've helped a lot of people build their brand. And I've helped other business owners grow their businesses. And now I'm really saying, okay, you've done that for a long time, Dominique. Stop, let it go, focus on you. So all of my skill sets and every skill that I've acquired over the years, I'm able to put into my business as far as marketing and communications. I'm just going to dive into it and go hard.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I try to do with my business as Romera Records. Like I bring on all these different kinds of people, and then I hope that eventually, I'm making all these great connections. And so if somebody's like, man, I wish I knew somebody who did this, then I would be able to just, oh yeah, I talked to them for 2 hours on a podcast. I know this person. Let me just give you their number. So it's something that, you've been working with all these people for so long, and you hope those connections, those relationships, they just pay off, and you're able to just get done what you need done. You focused on everybody else now, and you're like, time for me to focus on me.
Amen.
And you've built all these relationships to help it a smoother transition to whatever you need to get done. So I really hope that works out for you, because I've been in that boat. I know exactly how you feel
Well,
about
it
that.
will work out. I am really excited about it, and it's um, it's it's something that I've wanted to do for a while. But the thought of me letting go of everything and starting over something new is what really prevented me from doing it.
Yeah.
But when COVID hit, like I said, in April, it was kind of like, okay, Dominique, you need an essential trade. And you don't want to, and if I do plan on running again, I know that I'm going to need more money.
Yeah.
And so I have to level up. I have to boss up. I have to say, look, I want my income to be 20 grand a month. Okay. How do I get my income to that level? Okay, insurance is going to get that.
Yeah.
So will I be able to do that making $20 an hour? No.
Yeah.
So, and I'm the type of person where I don't like to depend on anyone. So, and when you're running for office, you have to call. You have to beg people for money to donate to your campaign. And so you're on the phone every day, calling. You're sending messages, emails, asking someone. Your team is required to help you fundraise. Now, prime example, you have Bloomberg, you have Trump. These are millionaires.
Yeah.
They ran for billionaires who ran for office.
Yeah.
So anybody who knows that when you ran for office, you have to have a lot of money or a network of people who are willing to give you money. And so I want to say I'm very proud of myself and my team, because we did raise a lot of money. We raised close to 20 grand.
That's good.
And we kicked off my campaign in April, and the election was in August. So we raised that amount in that allotted in that short time frame. But in order for me to have won this race, I would have needed 40 grand. So when you look at the dynamics of my race, and when you go back and measure what things could have been done differently for me, I think that fundraising could have been better. And I think that if I had had more financial support, then I could have done more marketing to get the word out.
Okay.
And so, and not only that, I was running against a 28-year incumbent that has a voting base, and she has a strong voting base, and people actually voted for her. Well, I wouldn't say like she's a bad candidate or anything, like she's a bad person, but she's 91 years old. And
that's literally,
yeah, she's 91.
Oh my God.
But that's thing
crazy.
is she has a sound mind, but it's time. It was time. And
I'm sorry, but that is mind-blowing.
It's time, and I had nothing against her at all. I actually think she's the sweetest lady in the world. She's nice. And I actually went to her and had lunch with her before I got into the race. People don't know this, so I thought that was the noble thing to do, was to go to her and say, could you support me?
Yeah.
And because I had heard from my friends that are in the Democratic Party that she was going to retire. And she had been talking about retirement. And so at the last minute, she decided not to retire. 2 weeks before the deadline to file the petition, she filed the petition, and she decided to run. And I had already filed my petition and submitted my petition to run.
So you set it up. You thought it was perfect.
It was set up for me to run.
Oh my
and you cannot tell me there were so many people that were against me running. There were so many people behind the scenes working against me. There were other elected officials that you think would have supported me publicly, but did not. They chose not to get into it. And that for me, that was a challenge for me to understand. And if you know that your city needs change, if you know that your community needs new leadership, I'm not saying that she has done that her leadership has been poor, but I can say that District 86 deserves better representation.
Yeah.
And what does better representation look like? It looks like someone who is mobile enough to get the job done, someone who is accessible, someone who is able to relate to the younger demographic of voters and possibly influence them to go vote. Someone who's relatable to the current changes that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, a 5-10 year gap in age is a drastic difference.
Exactly. So I don't even think Biden is 91.
No.
Right? So I was just really at awe. And a lot of people did not know that would happen. They just was like, "You've got this, girl."
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to be a tough race because of her voting base. But I just knew that people were going to vote for change.
Yeah.
And they did not.
That's
and majority of those folks that did vote, they were her base. They were older folks. They were her base.
And, that's probably the people who were actually out voting. I think a vast majority of young people they're probably the ones doing the protesting. As you said, they're the ones that probably didn't vote. So it's, as you said, she probably got all the votes from the people who were, older, and they're the educated ones.
Right. I think, when we looked at the numbers, we also saw where she, it was a huge amount of folks in my district that voted absentee. And I believe some kind of way her team sent out she got the absentee ballot request form to a large group of people. And, by law, that's a felony. But I'm not going to fight that.
Yeah.
It was, she's been in the game long enough to know how to maneuver and get things done. And so I commend her on her political tactics, and I'm just going to prepare for next time.
Yeah.
And hopefully next time her and I can sit down and say, hey, because I did call her after she won and congratulated her on her victory. And hopefully between now and 2022, her and I can sit down and say, hey, Barb,
are you actually retired?
Are you going to actually retire this time? And hopefully she'll say, I'm going to retire. Hopefully we can do some work together in the community. I can invite her out. We can build some rapport. And she can possibly endorse me, but I'm not expecting anything. But those are just high hopes. Those are very high hopes. But this has been a great interview, and I just have a desire to serve. I do. I really do.
Awesome. Well, tell everybody how they can contact you. I know you have an Instagram, so tell people that, emails, whatever you got.
Okay, so you can look me up on Instagram at Dominique Y. Frost, and that's at Dominique Y. Frost. I'm also on, I have my own website, so you can go to votedominiquefrost.com. You can also visit my Facebook and Twitter page. It's it's not Vote TN, it's Frost 4TN House. So Frost 4, the number 4, and then TN House. And again, I thank you for inviting me out, and thank you for inviting me to the show.
Absolutely.
Go vote, get civically engaged, follow me, follow a local city councilman, go to your local government website. Just get educated about voting, and know what civic engagement is, and know the power of a vote. And that's it, And just know that Dominique cares. D. Frost cares about you. And I'm going to always care about my community no matter what. I'm going to always have my hands into community work.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it was great having you on. And do you have anybody else that you that you think would be great to have on?
Well, like I said, it just depends on what kind of show you want. I mean, it's a lot of
Anybody.
awesome.
We
Well,
can
I can
talk
give
about
you
it
a whole
offline.
list. I can give you a whole list of folks
Yeah.
that I think will be great for the show. Entrepreneurs, people that have insight on Memphis politics. And I could, it's a lot of folks. J.B. Smalley, Michael and Esther Thomas. You've got Donna White. She's an ex rapper slash body slayer.
Okay.
Or skin slayer, not body slayer. She does all the skin, anything that you need to get done with your skin, and make yourself look pretty. And she does facials, she does waxes, she does all. Oh, she even has her own skin line.
Nice.
And so it's a lot of different people that I can recommend to you.
Cool.
that are in my network, because half of those folks that made donations to my campaign were small business owners.
Awesome. Okay. Great. Well, it was great having you on, and thank for everybody tuning in, and see you next time.
See you next time.
What a message.